It's enough to touch the bottom of the blade, which it is. See, it's wet. So
Okay, two. Okay.
So now this thing is what holds the otolith, or the sample up here, and it's actually, let's be smart about it. Flip that over so it's, because we got a square sample.
That will be good for the other, with this one, there's kind of a bullet shape. Or maybe not.
Yeah, maybe.
It doesn't matter actually. Some points.
All right. So this is why you want to put the otolith when you're putting them in the epoxy. Put the otolith off to that side of the mold, because you have to grab onto the end of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you have to still have room to cut here.
And it's very tight, by the way.
A little bit. It'll be fine, but if you put it like in the middle of the mold, then it can be problematic. But
yeah,
these are.
It's better you can use your fingers, I guess. Well, maybe not.
Yeah, and then this is the Allen wrench to tighten the.
Yeah, I think we have those
here.
wrenches for the other machine, so yeah.
Well, I'll leave you this one too.
Okay.
This goes with the thing. So, I mean,
Yeah,
as long as it's tight enough to not
tight
move.
enough, yeah.
And then this is the tricky part. So this is why you marked the middle. So this wheel on the edge over here moves this whole thing.
Ah, nice. I can see it.
Yep. So the tricky part is to get it lined up exactly perfect, and like
in the middle of the otolith.
Yep. Cutting otoliths is like a thing where like fractions of a millimeter kind of matter. Like you gotta like eyeball it as good as you can. So how I like to do it is I'll if you get your eye like lined up with it, you can see through the gap in here. Like I can see behind it through the two saw blades, right? So with my eye centered like that, and you can
oh yeah, it's easier. I mean, you're looking at the lateral plane.
Yes. And then with this wheel, I'll move it over till that pencil mark is just perfectly over.
Oh, I see.
Over the thing. So
it's easier. I got it.
I would call that pretty close. And you can also move this as well, like you saw. And I'll show you why. I like to have it angled so this corner is the last thing to get cut. Like if I turned it like this, it would kind of cut. This would be the last corner, if that makes sense, as it's cutting through. But
it's better that way.
I'll tip it this way because you don't want it to cut all the way through. You want to catch it, because then you'll lose the sample down in the bottom of the water, and you'll have to take it all apart. And
well, that's more tricky than this, actually.
Right. So I'll tilt this so that this corner, and then as it's cutting, I'll watch it and stop it right before it cuts through the. You'll see, it's easy to do. It's just something to consider, though. So
okay, good.
Just tip it so that's going to be the last corner, and
it's angled towards you.
I think that's pretty good and lined up. You can look at it too if you want.
It looks pretty good to me for a 90 degrees angle.
Yeah.
And from a lateral perspective too.
See how you can see through?
Yeah.
You can see the gray of this through the saw blades back there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I like to line it up. And then, so now we're ready to cut that. So we'll turn
it's on.
Turn it on. Can we turn it up? The RPMs is 175.
It's 100 now.
You can do it at 100. It just takes longer, so
there you go.
It's not that big a deal. But I like to have it at 175. That seems to work best. This 100-gram counterweight is this right here. So basically, this is a counterweight that varies the pressure that
is
puts
when
on here.
it's cutting. Yeah,
So if you move this weight out here that way, it puts more pressure on the sample as
you
it's
can
cutting.
cut it like.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do. We're not going to do it.
Yeah, nice and gentle. Seems to be 100 about seems to work. So
Okay.
so that's ready to go.
What about that?
This is
Some millimeters.
yep. This is a measure of how much lateral movement you've done to your sample. So I'm not going to do it because it's already. If I turned this, these numbers would change.
Ah, yeah, but it's already adjusted.
It's set, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see when you go to do it. The other thing is this right here is a magnet, and so there's like a sensor right in here. So this has to be shut for the saw to turn on. It's just like a safety thing.
Safety, yeah, makes sense.
So if you're pushing push and go and it's not turned on and this is open, that's why it's not turning on. So,
It's not open.
yeah, so close that.
It's like telling you, hey, shut it off.
Yeah. Then you just hit blade, I think, to start it. So now it's cutting. And it takes, so with these blue molds, the size of those ones, you'll probably like 3 or 4 minutes a piece, a sample. Those little smaller white molds, the really tiny ones, those go way faster, but they're I kind of think they're harder to use. I like these blue ones, I think, the best.
Well, okay.
So.
Good to know, because I think I have most of the samples in the small one.
Oh, okay.
So
It'll still work. You'll be fine. But
okay, this is the part when you need to be painting one installation.
What's that?
This is the part when you have to keep an eye on it
Yeah.
to stop it before it's cutting like the whole stuff, right?
Yep. And once the blades get to the otoliths, you'll kind of hear the sound changes as it's cutting through the otolith itself. You'll hear that in a second. There, that's the otolith itself getting cut. And the sound also, you can kind of hear it once it gets close to the end too. If you're not paying attention, you'll hear it get close to the end too.
Ah, okay.
So,
It would be the emergency stop would say that I got a phone call from Barry and I was like,
yeah,
looking at that.
you can stop it. I mean, just
Okay.
hit the blade and
Okay.
nothing. It doesn't hurt it, I don't think.
Okay. Same bottom then.
Just start it again. No big deal. Or I think this should stop it too. Yeah.
Oh. Well, you feel like it's taking like every like 2 to 3 minutes for
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. With molds that are this size. I have some really big molds that take like 10, 15 minutes, and those get really boring. But these ones I like the best, I think. So now it's getting kind of quieter, and it's already through the otolith now. Now we're just getting the rest of the epoxy.
So now is when you need to be like, oh, okay, let's
Yeah.
keep an eye on it because it's finishing. Close to,
Yeah.
start to finish.
So the tricky part, and the part Chip and I both struggled with this part, was once it's cut, that sample is really thin, and it's, I mean, a calcium crystal basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really easy to crack.
Calcium carbonate, since it is.
Yeah. So we struggled not cracking them. So I'll kind of show you what we figured out there.
If I crack one, it's gone. I cannot get another piece out of that, right?
You can usually still read them if they're cracked.
But it's gonna be really short.
Well, usually they don't like fall out. You just mount them and see, oh yeah, there's a crack in that one. Like under the microscope, you can see it. So it'll still be okay. Usually, it's just easier if there's no cracks.
Okay, it's better if there's something.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Usually, you can still read it though, unless it gets real crazy or something. But if you can do stuff to reduce the amount of cracking, that's obviously better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's better.
But it's pretty tough to not crack it, is what I'm getting at.
It definitely takes like at least 3 to 4 minutes actually.
Yep. So you'll kind of get into a routine doing it. Okay, see how it sounds a little different?
Yeah, now it's getting to the end.
Yeah.
There
So
you go.
pretty-
Really close.
That's pretty close. Oops.
That's fine.
Yeah, whatever. But see how this, so now the only thing left to cut is just the very tip of this corner.
Uh-huh.
So that's why we tipped it like this, so that would be the last thing to be cut.
Uh-huh. That
That
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah,
So if we had this whole thing tipped the other way, it wouldn't have worked out that way.
Uh-huh.
So
That's why it's important to use that
Yeah.
tool here.
right. So then you can just lift it up, and this thing kind of has like a catch, so where it'll sit there now.
Okay.
Whereas if you just let it go now, it'll
Yeah.
tip back down.
You can break
But
it
if,
off. Yeah.
if you just push a little bit, it'll stay up there. So then just unscrew the screws, if I can get it in there. And it should come right out. Okay.
Okay, here's the critical part. the breaking.
Yeah. Do you have a razor blade?
Razor blade.
Wasn't
We'll have scissors.
or like a knife would work as well, maybe.
We should have one. I just think right now what it is.
I was looking at